Hi, good morning, friends. Yeah, just before I go into my message, let me tell you that I'm not a professional speaker. So I think I have to tell you my background so that you may be able to, listen to my message, that based on my background, so that you may be able to understand more clearly. So basically, I'm from Burma, so one of the closed society in the world, but just recently opened up for everyone to visit. So I live in a closed society for, most of my life. So I recently arrived in Australia just 5.5 years ago. So I started learn how to speak in English last 5.5 years ago. So you can imagine that, during this message, you will come up with something maybe weird like sentences. So, but you have to remember that I'm from somewhere out there. So yeah, that's my basically my short background. And after I arrived here in Australia, God is so good that He called me into the ministry. So today, basically, I'm going to talk about my experience, not someone's experience, but my own experience, and the sufferings that I went through in my, especially the last 5, 6 years, 6, 7 years between the last 6, 7 years. So how I went through all the sufferings that I had, and how I surrender myself to be a minister of God. So my message will be based on that, basically. So today, my message, as you see here on the screen, when you suffer many things. So that will be that will be my topic for today. When you suffer many things, what happened to you? When we suffer many things, what happened to us? That's the question we have to ask today. So before that, I'd just like to introduce my wife and my two little sons. So this is my wife, and here another one here, two of my sons. One is 3 and almost 3.5. Another one is 7 months. So God bless me. During my study, I got these two boys apart from my study. So God bless me a lot during this 3, 4 years time. All right, thank you for that. And firstly, I'd like to tell you my story when I was in India. So, yeah, part of my story was I'm a professional in an IT sector. I'm a programmer, basically. I work with one of the company in India for about 8, 9 years. And most of my, young, like not adulthood, yeah, somewhere 20s and between 20s and 30s, I'm in India, basically. So I work with the IT firm there. And during that period of time, one day I had a severe illness. And when I went to, and then my skin's color changed. I have a bit dark skinned, but my skin color changed into a yellowish color. And then I start worrying myself, my skin color has changed. Like every day when I look at my skin, I'm not quite normal. And then when I go to the bathroom, and the color of my urine was not good, and it became yellowish. So I visited one of the specialists there, and I spoke to him. I have this problem for about a week now, and I seems to be very weak. And he checked my blood, and finally, the doctor said you had a severe liver, like, problem. So basically, my liver is almost damaged there. So I was quickly admitted to the hospital. But the problem in India was, at that time I live in New Delhi, and one of the hospital that the doctor admitted me was, there are many people in India. So even on one bed, two person have to sleep. Like one has to put his leg across that side, and one person has to we have to sleep across. So I was admitted in that hospital, and I stayed in hospital for 3 months. And then by the time the doctor said you can go home, and I went to home with taxi, and then some of my friends, they took me home. Even that 2, 3 months, I couldn't walk. I couldn't even go to the toilet. The toilet was very close to my bed, just 4 or 5 steps away from my bed. I couldn't even walk that far because I was so weak. And as a young man, I start questioning God a lot. Although I'm a Christian, since I was born, I start questioning about God. And then I start questioning why this health problem comes to me. Why I am so weak now. I thought I am going to success in my life. I'm going to do more business, more work, and I'm going to save more money. And I'm going to settle in my country. But now life is very bad. And I couldn't work, I couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't visit anywhere, I couldn't go to church, I couldn't do anything. So in that particular moment, I have many thoughts in my mind, running through in my mind, that is God exists? Is God there? That's my question basically. If God is there, why can't He heal me? Because He's all powerful, He's all knowing, He can do all sort of things. Why not me? Basically that's a question. And then after that, by God's grace, I was healed, and I received my strength back. And finally, I ended up coming to Australia in 2010, in July 2010. So after arriving in Australia, the first thing I had to undergo was to have the blood test. So because in our country, we never had any type of blood tests entire life. So just imagine of arriving Australia, I want to make sure that what problem I have. So I went to the GP and I asked for like blood test, and she took my blood and had a blood test. And finally, the problem was I had liver failure. And at that time I had hepatitis C, which is very bad disease. And man, my problem was in an advanced stage. So the doctor told me that almost half of your liver has been damaged. Daniel, half of your liver has been damaged. And even though you are taking medication, the success rate is 50-50, half. I can't guarantee that, you are going to heal. But as far as when we look at the ultrasound or so forth, half of your liver has been damaged. So when I heard that news, that was on Friday. I still remember it. When I heard that news, and I drove back home, and I quickly ran into my room, and I didn't go out from my room from that day for 2 weeks. So I was having fever. I don't know why. Where does that fever comes from? So I was so stressful. I started having fever. And I couldn't eat. I didn't eat for 2 weeks. And I thought, just before coming to Australia, I thought I'm going to work there and earn money, and I was going to settle my life, and I'm going to have wife, kids. My future dream were so good before I came to Australia. But as soon as I arrived Australia, the news that I heard was half of your liver has been damaged. And I feel quite pain to this area, to my right side as well, under my rib. So I could figure that, yeah, I believe so. Half of my liver might have been damaged because I can feel that. So for 2 weeks, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go to the appointment, the hospital, whatever appointment I have, I didn't go. I just skip. I just say, I'm not well. So I was so upset for that 2 weeks. And then, fortunately, my mom was with me, and my mom said, son, I always pray for you. Why don't you go to doctor and, do some more, take some medication and just try it. try your luck, whether you may heal, or like, we don't know whether you may heal or not. So finally, after 2 weeks, bedridden on bed without eating any food, I jumped up from my bed and I thought, yeah, I better go to hospital again. So I visit the specialist there in Maruba Hospital, no, in Marunda Hospital, and the doctor start providing me medication for 1 year. 1 year injection on the belly, on this area, the whole area, and then 1 year continuously every morning medication, very strong medication. So through that 1 year period, all of my hairs were fall off. You can imagine how strong that medication were. Especially when I wash my hair, I can, if I do like pull a little bit, my hair start, falling off. So I almost lost all of my hair due to the medication. So I took the medication for 1 year, injection 1 year. By the time I finished taking the medication, the whole surface of my stomach, like belly, was darkened because of the injection. So I was so thin, no strength, no energy to even like do anything. And during that period of time, I have many questions. And after that, I will continue to tell my problem. After that, I went to a hospital and they test my blood, and finally, God is so good that I'm cured. So I praise God for that. And after that, I thought, I'm going to work in one of the IT firm in Melbourne. So I start, studying in Swinburne University. I'm doing my degree course there in software development and web development. And I do basically two. So I started my journey there again. And then one of the day, I think in December, I had a very strange lump in my bottom. So when I feel it, I can feel the lump. But it's in a private part, so I don't want to tell to anybody. Even I didn't visit to hospital. So I just thought that it would just go away like that. And it kept growing. And finally, after 6 months, I need to go to the hospital because it was too painful. I couldn't bear anymore. So I went to the hospital and, talked to the doctor, and they said, this is a kind of fistula. I think some of you may know the fistula. So it's a very big lump there in the very center of my bottom. So I had a very painful moment there. And the doctor said, you have to undergo surgery. Otherwise, this is not going away. But even you are undergoing surgery, chances are like 50-50. So I went through one surgery and it didn't succeed. So I have to wait 6 months. And then the second surgery after 6 months, and it didn't go away. It's still there. I have to use nappy like all the time because it's blood coming out, all the rubbish coming out there. I had a very bad times. 6 months, and then another 6 months, second surgery, and then it didn't work. And then another 6 months, they had one more surgery. I had one more surgery, and it didn't work either. So I was so upset. I couldn't sit. So basically, if I'm going to sit, I have to use my back to support me so that I could sit, I could sit on a chair, basically. So basically, most of the time I lie on my back. I lie on my bed and I did nothing. If I have time, I just read on bed. But you have a very little hope in that particular moment. So the third operation didn't success. And they operated me so often that, the place where the operator was, a mess up. And it didn't look good either. So I don't know what to do because there are many questions that comes into my mind. And I pray to God, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do now. If you want me to live another chance, then please heal me. And that second chance of my life would be yours. That's what I just speak to God. And the doctor called me for the fourth operation, the fourth time after 6 months. And I went through that operation again. Even the fourth time, it didn't success. And I prayed to God, Lord, what happened? Now I went through 4 times surgery, and it did nothing worked out. And one of the pastor from my church, from the local church, came and said, Daniel, do you want to study in Avondale? So basically, I worked with him, and I work some of his website. I created for him some websites, and so he knew me quite well before. So he came to my place and, do you want to study in Avondale? I said, I didn't know. He said, if you want to study, I will help you. I will help you writing all the necessary application, and I will sign for your documents, and I will support you. Not financially, but in terms of paper or the document. So I said, I have to think of it, and I spoke to my mom. And Mom, the pastor is offering me this. He said, you better go to Avondale and do something. And I finally accepted it, and I lodged my application, and finally my application was accepted. And the problem was, I didn't work for so long that I don't have money to go to Avondale. So I prayed to God again, Lord, now I submit my application, and my application had been accepted. Now I don't have money. So what do I do? So I spoke to that pastor. Pastor, do you have any idea where could I get money to go to Avondale? And he said, probably if you talk to one of the staff from the conference, they might have some scholarship or something like that. So I wrote an application to the conference office, and finally, the application was accepted within 1 week. So they said, we are going to sponsor you. So finally, I said, okay, that's how God answered me. So I quickly pack up my stuff, and I went to Avondale. But just before I went to Avondale, during my second year in Swinburne, I lodged an application to one of the database company here in Melbourne. And that was responded very positively. And they said, we want to employ you as a student intern, a placement, So I received that offer from one of the database company, and I already decided to go to Avondale. So at home, I spoke to my parents, and my siblings, they are there, and my brother said, no, you don't go to Avondale, you work. This is a good job, man. You will earn good money. So, and then you can get, in a later time, this will be your experience, and you will get a good job. And everyone talk about, whether to go or not to go. And then my mom said, no, you have to go. And some of my family members said no. My mom said yes. So finally, I said yes, because that's my decision. I already promised God that if you give me the second chance, I will go. But the problem is, the problem in my back wasn't healed, go away yet. It's still there. But with faith, I went to Avondale. And during the very first semester in 2014, one of the day I feel, the place where I usually have the problem, and then it seems like, healing. So I can feel that, a sense of healing. So finally, when I look at carefully, yeah, God is so good, it was healed. That was amazing. Without even undergoing any surgery, it just healed. So from there, I start remembering. I start like learning about God more and more and God's goodness more and more. So here basically believing God can be a burden. So for me, since I was born, I'm a Christian. So I believe in God. I truly believe in God. But when I have gone through all that several sufferings, many sufferings in my life, believing in God can be a burden. It become a burden for me. It is a very burdensome. It is very heavy that, even in some point of my life, I think God is not there. God is not there. Because if He is there, He will heal me. So being a Christian, believing in God was becoming a burden. So as we know that, sickness is the great interrupter of life. It enters without knocking your door, arresting all plans and mocking the ideas of certainty and diminishing hope for the future. Not only that, it touching every part of our life, and basically sufferings takes away parts of us, leaving us to wonder who is the real me. Why? Because as the person who believes in someone, who believes in God, we believe that He can heal the sick. He can raise the dead and He can destroy the devil forces. So this kind of understanding forces us to face the question, if He can, why doesn't He heal me? Why doesn't God just release His power and heal all my hurts? That question was so strong in my head during that time. So believing in God was a big burden for me during that time. Not only that, during that time, I have lost control. I think I am pretty much lost control of myself. It was like driving on an icy highway. Suddenly your car hits an ice slick and you are out of control. And you try to hit the brake and twist the steering wheels. But what happened? Nothing helps. All you can do is what? Hang on into the car, hang on, and just sit in the car and wait for the crash. So my life was like that for almost 3-4 years. I lost control of myself. I think I'm going to crash. I'm just waiting for the day when my parents and my sibling were buried me in one of the cemetery in Melbourne. That's only hope that I have. So I am pretty much lost control of myself, lost control of everything. I don't have any hope. So one of the quotes that I like pretty much was this quote. For the suffering, in suffering is lack of love. When we are suffering, and when we suffer during our suffering, that is lack of love. And the wounds in wounds are the abandonment. And the powerlessness in pain is unbelief. So that's where I gain my strength back. I'm very powerless. So this quotation come to my head. I'm powerless in pain, in suffering. That's mean I'm unbelief. So that particular phrase bring back on my foot, and I start walking as a son of God. And here when we look at Paul, in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3 to 11, we can read this text. We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despair of life itself. In verse 9 he said, indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death. But this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. So yeah, Paul was telling us that he has been going through suffering that may lead him to the death. He thought he himself received the sentence of death. But finally, he has the answer, very good answer. He said, but this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God. So that's exactly what that happened to me. The time that I went through the sufferings and the question that I raised, so many questions in my head about God, finally I got the answer. This is my answer, is so that I might rely on God. I might rely on God. And the good part is, who raises the dead? Who can raise the dead? Basically, even if I died on this earth, one day I have a hope that Jesus will raise me from the dead. So that's basically that's my hope. So no matter what happened in our life, currently whatever happened in our life, that doesn't, no longer that can attack me. Although God healed me in those period of time, I still have that effect now. Because after taking all that medication, I had a problem with the thyroid inactive thyroid. I am taking 75 micrograms each morning now. And I think 2 months ago, I went to my GP and she took the ultrasound and she has seen some glands, some bigger, like some glands there, which may end up being a cancer, who knows. Yeah, so she said we have to look carefully into your throat as well. But now I can cope with all that problem. Because I know that God is really good to, no matter what happened, He will raise me one day if I die now. So that hope carry me on each day of my life. So today I want to encourage you that sometimes if you have asked for light, but all you experience is darkness, and if you ask for health, but all you experiencing are more sickness. And if you has asked the Lord for companionship in life, but you are still experience loneliness. If you have asked Him for success, but what you see is only failure. You have asked God for life, but death is what you get. What would be your answer? Friends, when things go from bad to worse, you still have to trust Him. Even He may delays. Even if your plans are interrupted, you are still to trust Him. Your situation may be desperate, and you may experience sorrow after sorrow, trouble after trouble. You may have lost your health, wealth, job, very good friends, maybe a family member. Or you may be misunderstood by your friends or your family member or your church friends. And when you are told that your future is finished, remember your future is in God's hand. And that He has better plans for your life. What may seem like the end may very well the beginning of the real life. Looking back, I can tell you that the hardest, the loneliest, the coldest, and most depressed season of my life has often produced the greatest fruit in my life. I bet it's the same for you too. When we think that we suffer many things, let us remember God worked us through in all our suffering. He never leaves us alone. He walks with us, no matter where you are. So finally, I want to come to this particular text. In Revelation 21, verse 3 to 4, it says, "And God Himself will be with us, and He will wipe away every tear from our eyes, and death shall be no more, and there will be no mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore. For the former things have passed away. So actually, as a believers, we are looking to that day. We are looking to that particular day. So no matter what you are going through currently you are going through, any type of sufferings or problems that you are going through, if we all can lean toward our God, if we can submit ourselves, commit the whole of ourselves, surrender ourselves into our loving God, though you may walk in the valley, you are safe. One day, all the former things will pass away and everything will become new. May the Lord help us to remain faithful even if we have to suffer many things. This is my prayer for all of you. May God bless you.